G'day everybody, and welcome to another episode of Let's Do Another Take. In today's episode, I speak to one of my dearest friends, the amazingly talented and successful Cam Nacson. Cam is a singer-songwriter. He is a person who builds live shows for artists. He is a producer. He is just an extreme talent. I probably haven't scratched the surface there. And on top of all that, he's just a lovely, lovely soul. Cam had some really amazing tips to share for any up-and-coming musician or creative, and I know you're really going to enjoy this chat. So please sit back and relax after subscribing and enjoy my chat with the amazing Cam Nacson. Cam, my friend, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael McGlynn.
Cam Nacson, it's my absolute honor. Man, do you remember the first album or single that you ever owned?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
I do. It was Vanessa Amorosi, The Power.
Ooh.
Yeah. I remember where I bought it. I think it was at Top Ride Shopping Centre.
Nice.
And yeah, it what an album though. Really good album.
What a voice.
Yeah. Definitely a good one.
Did that kind of ignite something in you straight away?
Yeah, I think that I always knew from an early age, from mum said, from when I could talk, I was singing. But I wasn't any good. I just knew that I liked it. And then
What, you weren't a great singer as a 2-year-old?
Well, I didn't show promise or anything like that. There's some kids who are you're like, oh wow, they're actually pretty good for a blah 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 year old. But I was not one of those kids.
Yeah.
But then when I was 9, I did a competition, a stage competition at the local holiday park that we used to go holidaying at. And I sang Shine by Vanessa Amorosi off that album.
Banger.
And yeah, I won. So that was probably, in a way, I guess it got me started.
And would you say that's your career highlight today?
That's pretty much it. That's the most people I've ever sang in front of. So
do you remember the feeling of being 9 and singing in a competition and what that felt like?
I do. Before that, my dad likes to tell the story as when I came up and I said that I wanted to sing in that competition, he said, you have to go up on stage in front of everyone. Are you cool with that? I was like, yeah. And he's like, so are you going up with or without your mum's leg? Because I apparently, I just used to be absolutely attached to mum, wouldn't go anywhere without mum or dad. So I think it was definitely a massive step for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think hopefully I've been growing since then.
And what did it feel like when you were singing the song in front of people for the first time?
Good, really good. I loved it. Yeah, I think that's probably why I'm still doing it now, despite all the ups and downs of the industry and whatnot. It keeps you going. It's all worth it in the end, in my opinion. For some people it isn't, and that's fine. But
totally,
for me it is. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Do you remember the first song you wrote?
Yeah, it was that year actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it was called Lonely, and it was a song about being lonely.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense, come to think of it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's it. And as a 9-year-old kid, you could imagine uh, the amount of heartbreak I had been through
Mm.
in my
Mm.
life. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, uh, yeah. Mm, it was a song. It was a
Do you
song.
remember the song?
Yeah, I remember the song.
Were
I
there
mean, I remember
any,
the tagline.
what was it?
I wanna go home without being lonely. Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry. That just makes me really emotional.
I know. I know.
It
I
actually
hope it
sounds
just.
like a great song.
I mean, it had a tagline. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
Yeah. Have
a
have
product
you
of the '90s. So
yeah.
it.
Have you ever thought about, or have you ever done it, reaching out to Vanessa Amorosi and thanking her?
No, but I will actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. Right after this, I'll stay tuned.
Nice. Well, I mean, you could end up building her live show potentially.
Yeah, I mean, could. I mean, she did a tour last year, and it seemed like it was a lot of fun. One of my mates supported her around Australia, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, it looked like a good time.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. And so if we fast forward to now, you've just set up a new company called Just So Creative.
yeah.
Um, Before we get into what that company does, which is a lot of things, and I mean, I'm one of your biggest fans. What do you think the 9-year-old Cam would think if he could look at Cam now? Do you think he'd think that he'd succeeded?
Um, to be honest, probably not because um, 9-year-old Cam and probably up through to 18-year-old Cam kind of, had this idea of like wanting to be like maybe not famous, but like wanting to be famous slash and a successful artist who is a household name,
Right.
um, which didn't happen, and I'm really glad because I'd
Yeah.
really hate it.
Yeah, totally.
Uh, my friend actually asked me the other night, like, why that is. And I was like, you know, my life is far from perfect, and, just as everyone's is. Um, but it's like, I love my life, and I would not want it to be different from how it is now.
Nice.
Um, and that's it. Like, I, I just hate that idea. But
Mm.
um, I think potentially, slightly older Cam, like, maybe around 18, might have been able to understand that um, success was not what he thought it would be. And
Mm.
um, I now feel like a success, and also I feel like there's still heaps to do and to grow and whatnot.
That's so awesome. Do you
Yeah.
remember a conversation we had in the laneway outside Vienna People Studios? Probably
Many.
8 or 9. Well, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not saying, do you ever remember talking to me? A
Mm.
specific one, probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And I remember saying to you that 20-year-old me wouldn't have thought that I was a success. And it was the same thing that you just said then. 20-year-old me wanted to be in a world famous band. And it wasn't until I kind of got older and didn't get that I actually realized how incredibly lucky I was,
Hmm.
A, and B, successful I am to have a life that I feel very blessed to have. And that's the ultimate definition of success, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're happy, and uh, we've made it through our lives to our ages now, both at 35.
Of course.
And
Thank you.
um, and we're doing it living off music, which
Yeah.
is wild.
Yeah, it is,
And
isn't it?
there are so many people that haven't been that lucky. Um, uh, and I don't know, like it is tough
Mm,
sometimes, really
mm,
bloody tough, but
mm.
it's the best.
Absolutely. Could you give me a few examples of how it's tough?
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably the most prevalent recently has been going through COVID and really seeing how um, the government and like kind of all forms of uh, public assistance and all of that kind of stuff is just not set up to help or benefit not just people in the music industry, but sole traders and like those kinds of things. Like
Mm,
the you don't fit into this little like cookie cutter mold that
mm.
that is easily quantifiable, and
Yeah,
so it it's really difficult in that way to kind of get support and to explain to people, especially in those roles where why would you expect someone who does not live in an industry, in a gig economy industry,
yeah,
to understand. And those are the people we need to be talking to get the support, because that's where their expertise lies.
yeah,
And it's not in a gig economy; it's in doing the amazing things that they do to try and um, help people.
mm,
Um, and that's usually run under a government or run through a big company where it's just not like our industry.
mm, mm.
Um, Beyond that, I think that especially in the songwriting or artistry side of things, we obviously put a lot of our own heart and effort and soul into everything that we do. So, um, learning to take criticism is incredibly hard, and is something that if you don't learn pretty early on, it will probably break you, um,
Mm,
because it's really difficult to deal with.
mm.
A lot of people kind of go home at the end of a work day and that's it. Like you're done with work
Yeah,
and you go home and then you live your life.
yeah,
Whereas our life is just it's 24/7. Our life and our work, they are one and the same.
yeah,
Um, and that doesn't mean that it's all the time. Like it isn't actually 24/7, but it's it's most of the time, and you might have a day off, every week or two, but really you're still thinking about it because it's your
yeah.
passion too.
Never stops, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like because I don't know, like even when I have the downtime, like I'll play video games for like a couple hours or something like that, and then I'm like, yeah, but I kind of want to do work now,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
totally.
know,
Yeah,
and it's
which is
really only like
unreal.
yeah, it's really only when I'm hanging out with my mates and my wife that like I I kind of forget about work, but then as soon as I think about it again, I'm like, I kind of want to do work because I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah,
um, and yeah, I don't know, like that whole workaholic thing is seen sometimes as a negative, harmful thing, but it's just not. Like if you
yeah,
love what you do, um, I don't think that there should be negative connotations to it.
yeah, totally. Absolutely. And so, being the workaholic, you went, right, I'm going to set up a company that does all things creative.
And then
First of all, can you just tell us what the company does?
yeah, so Just So was set up by myself and my wife Tamika.
Who's
and
also an amazing artist.
who's also an amazing singer-songwriter, everything if. And yeah, we it's really just like putting an official name on something that we were already doing.
Yeah.
And really kind of like trying to bring everything together and neaten it all up and give it a nice presentation, because we were already doing all this stuff. So essentially, we're a an overall creative company, and we kind of specialize in everything from production through songwriting, and then through to like the live show stuff. We build shows and visuals and whatnot for artists. We also do stuff like tour management and logistics and all of those kinds of things. And yeah, we found it works really well because having the one team across everything, um, it it kind of streamlines a lot of things, and it keeps costs down for up and coming independent artists, which
Mm,
is really where we've been working a lot,
yeah.
because putting on the shows that we put on at the caliber that we put on, um, would usually cost artists far too much money
Mm,
to be viable at this stage until you've actually like cracked it, or you've got a major label that's paying for everything, and then inevitably you're paying them back and blah
yeah.
blah. So it's yeah, we just aim to really make all of it a viable thing, for up and coming artists, um, while yeah, like not breaking the bank and keeping the quality at a high level.
So I often talk to people outside the music industry about how much I charge,
Mm,
and the fact that most of my clients don't have money.
mm,
Most of my clients are musicians, and
yeah.
and they will often say, "Well, yeah, but you've got to know what you're worth, right? And you've got to." But then you've got that whole thing of, "Well, I can charge a top dollar, and maybe that would work out in the long run in some way, but I don't think I would enjoy it because for me, I love working with upcoming artists and independent artists far more than working for record companies and the machine, as it were. So
Yeah.
how do you wrestle with the fact that you're providing this amazing service that should be costing way more than assumingly you're charging? How
Mm.
does that work in your head?
Um, I think mainly because I charge for my time at the rate that I am worth. And then all the other
A
stuff,
million
like
dollars an hour,
a
really?
million dollars an hour, it's pretty wild.
Wow.
No,
Yeah.
like I look, I probably undercharge slightly. It's fine. But
Yeah.
like I charge what I'm happy with charging.
Mm.
Um, and that's kind of where I sit. But then there's the other things, like we have our own touring rig where it's got a wireless mixer, it's got all the like audio interface, it's got three in-ears, three microphones, and all of that. That those kinds of things are the things that you have to have to put on a big, a large scale performance.
Yeah.
Um, and usually you would have to hire those things from any number of places, but it would cost a lot of money. Or you
Mm.
could buy your own rig, and it's ten to $20,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah.
And so it's in those places where I feel that we really save our artists a lot of money, so that everyone's still getting paid what they deserve to get paid. And really
Nice.
for us, it's just an upfront, um, like, yeah, I guess an upfront expense that we've decided to put in, and invest knowing that, it will pay itself off. But this is a way where we can keep those costs down, but still be paying ourselves and our musicians that we hire, what they're worth.
Yeah, nice. So, what goes into a live show that you build? I think so many people still think of live music as being a bunch of musicians playing live, and that's certainly the case for a lot of artists. But the really big shows, I think everyone's accepting of the fact that there are probably backing tracks going on, and but may not really know the nuts and bolts of what's going on under the hood. What's happening when you build a live show? What do you have to build?
Um, yeah, a lot. Um, it's it's really cool. Essentially, like, yes, we're running tracks and live instruments at the same time.
Yeah,
Which obviously, uh, on two ends of the spectrum, there's, just DJs, which is just tracks, right? There's
yeah.
that end of the spectrum through to there's just musicians and everything's live and whatnot. And we kind of sit in the middle, which is funnily the hardest thing to pull off because you're trying to put together these two things
Yeah.
that classically hasn't really mixed very well. But now, thanks to a lot of modern technology, it's
Mm.
easier and getting easier, and more affordable every year with every new little product that comes out and whatnot.
What kind of
Um,
technologies?
I mean, even down, like, I mean, Ableton is a big thing that we use. We build all our live shows in Ableton.
Yeah.
Through to, there's like an audio interface called the Play Audio 12, where before you'd be spending upwards of $4,000, $5,000 for a redundant audio system, which means that you can run two shows simultaneously, and if one of them drops out, it automatically switches to the other one.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, those interfaces used to cost crazy amounts of money, whereas these are about $900, and it's those things that slowly make it more accessible, and whatnot. But yeah, a lot of it is to do with putting in that work beforehand. We build all the shows, as I said, in Ableton. We get all the different stems from each producer that has produced the music for each artist,
Mm-hmm.
and then we drop it into a live session, and we kind of tweak and play around with, like, what do we want to play?
Yeah.
Is there something that does the guitarist want to play that line or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that we do it this way is because to pull off something that, in these days of pop music across the board, like, to really have the songs stand up to what is on the radio version, you need to a 10, 12 people, and
Mm.
that's just not viable. Like,
Yeah.
you just, like, you can't. Or you could tour eight people who are just like the absolute best session musos in the entire country, and that's just not, again, that's just not a thing.
Yeah.
Um, so
And if
yeah,
there's three guitar parts, it doesn't matter how great the guitarist is.
yeah. What are you going to
You've
do?
only got two hands,
Exactly.
presumably.
Exactly. So yeah, perfect example. If you got three different guitar lines, you either hire three guitarists or you just play one of the guitar lines.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
And leave a
what do
big
you want to do
hole.
there? Leave a big hole.
Mm.
So yeah, it's about making it doable for up and coming artists, to tour. And realistically, all artists at all levels are going this way. You're kind of better off spending that money that you can easily save by going and running tracks, on other things like lighting and visuals, and staging or like any number of things.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just about being intelligent about it.
Yeah, yeah. And so what's the goal to when you create a live show? What's your goal?
It's about enhancing the familiar and incredible work of the people that I work for. Like it's, these artists that I'm working with are insanely talented and they have really, really great music. So it's not about like going and again, like, turning it into some like band version of the song that they've released. It's about giving the audiences what they expect to some
Yeah,
extent,
yeah.
but then throwing in these little wow moments where they're like, "Oh, damn, I wasn't expecting that, but it's so cool." And like
Nice.
they'll just be like this little a cappella bit where they're like, "Oh," or like just
Yeah.
even doing tiny little things of like just cutting out for a bar where the chorus is watching them start singing the chorus like
Yeah.
idiots, and then like doing a bow, 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 like back in,
Yeah.
it's those little things where um I don't know. I just find it really. I think of it like, what would I want to see if I went to see this artist live, And
Brilliant.
it is predominantly like, I love this song, so I want to hear the song,
Yeah.
um, and I want to hear it mostly as I remember it, but with like extra elements and like make it a unique experience
Mm.
on top of that.
Unreal. Do you
Yeah,
do like transitions between songs and
yeah.
intros and outros and all that? That is so. Is the whole show just for those that don't know? Is the whole
hmm
show timed from start to finish, or you've got scope for ad libbing with the audience and stuff like that?
There's definitely scope for ad-libbing. It's just got to be planned, like if that makes sense. So like
Mm-hmm.
that, like I'll need to put in different markers where I can like have this section repeat for as long as we want it to,
Yeah.
or whatnot. But yeah, so it's essentially like, if you were to look at our setup, it's a linear setup. So it's from left to right. You can see the entire show set up in the show file,
Yeah.
and within there we can put automated stops. So we'll have a talking break in between these two songs, or for particular songs. I mean, look, with pop music, I think it's important to give the audience a second to applaud,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I think there's something like psychological about uh, the applause being like, "Oh, this is great." Like we're telling the artist and ourselves that the
Yeah.
show's going really well,
Yeah.
and we really
Nice.
enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So just doing that, and then like not having a full on stop. So we have like a 2-3 second gap of silence, and then slowly the intro for the next song will come in, and it'll be like a completely unique intro for it, where there'll be like little snippets of like the vocal from the chorus or whatnot, and they'll be like, "Oh shit, is that this
Yeah.
song?" I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah, I think it is." And then like slowly building it up, while the artist has time to talk over.
Yeah.
It's not awkward because they're talking over silence.
Mm.
And then eventually it builds up, and then we have a big intro, and then go into the song, and everyone goes wild. So
Nice.
those are the moments that are like really, really effective. I love it.
And I imagine that the artist must get super excited as the show's getting built, and
Yeah, it's awesome.
when you're collaborating and saying we could do a drop here and just go to an a cappella section for like 2 bars and then come back in with a beautiful fill or something.
Yeah,
Like it must be such good energy building a show and building those excitement moments.
yeah. I mean, it's one of the best parts of the job for sure. Like, um, especially like I try and do like a 50-50 kind of thing of like working with the artist present, building a show, but realistically, like, it's a lot of time,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just really, really boring, dragging and dropping stems in and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, it's really cool especially when an artist has been like, oh yeah, like this song I definitely want like an intro for, and I'll be like, yeah, cool, leave it with me, and then send through the thing, and they'll be like, oh my, like this is so cool, like I didn't even think about this, or like doing an alternate version. Coda Banks and I just did a tour, and
Nice.
we reworked one of her songs, and made it this like 80s synth pop
Nice.
thing, but like slow jam 80s synth pop thing, and it's a little bit random in the set, but
Yeah.
I tried to tie it in as much as we can with the original, and people love it. Like, and
Nice.
it's awesome. It's this completely new take on the song. It's really heartfelt and emotional,
Mm.
which I have always felt that the original was, um, but I think it just comes across way more in that version of it. So
Unreal.
yeah, it's kind of those little bits are awesome.
So what are some of the have you had any catastrophes
Heck yeah.
work? I mean, stupid question. And
Almost every time.
of course not now because you've got it so sorted. But
Oh,
back
totally.
when you were learning the craft, what's a catastrophe that you can recall?
Yeah, I mean, the first really big one that I can remember was uh, Chloe supporting Maroon 5 on their Australian tour.
Yeah.
And it
That
was
was a
the first
stadium
show.
tour, right?
It was an arena tour, so it
Yeah.
was, yeah, it was a show. It was in front of 10,000 people. First time playing in front of that many people. And my keyboard, it's all connected via MIDI, right? So like it's triggering sounds that are on the laptop rather than running audio out of the keyboard.
Hmm.
So I'm playing the bass line in this one song, and it's like the song is basically baseline riff, right?
Yeah.
It's called Heavy, and anyway, the bass line is like boom, ba-dum, boom, 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 ba-dum, ba-dum, boom, boom. So playing that, going all well, and then in the pre-chorus, it's like more of this like subby held thing, where it's like do do do, and then doing that, and then so we go into the pre-chorus, and like do, and I'm like,
Oh
oh no,
no.
oh no. It's just like stuck on this one note, and and I'm like, oh no. And then so I just like turn the keyboard off, I unplug the MIDI cable, plug it back in, and like the chorus is about to come in, and again the chorus is like predominantly like bass riff,
Yeah.
and I plug it back in, and like switch it back on, and it's like just switched on, like chorus 2, 3, 4, boom, ba-da-dum, I'm like, oh, and then it was all good from
Oh.
there on. But after that, I don't know. I had this fight or flight thing where like after
Mm.
that song, I was pretty close to having to walk off stage because it was that scary. Like,
Traumatic.
yeah, well, just because it's just so out of your control sometimes.
Yeah.
If it was a personal mistake, like I bung notes every single gig,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and it just is what it is. You just practice and get better, and it'll
Yeah.
be fine. But when it's those kinds of moments where it's technology based, you're like,
Oh man.
I don't know when that's going to happen again,
Yeah.
and that is frightening. And that was the second song in the set, so we were only 10 minutes into a 30-minute set, and I was just like, yeah.
So,
Anyway, rest of the set was fine.
in all honesty, do you reckon the audience would have noticed?
No, no,
So
not
that's
in that.
not really what I would class a catastrophe.
Okay, no, yeah. I would
Have you
say
had a catastrophe?
I would argue no,
Nice.
because um I guess to reach a level of catastrophic failure, I would say like the show can't go on, like it's all over, like forget about it. And
Or a
myself
song
and my
finishes
team,
stops halfway or something.
yeah, but again, see, I have an anecdote about one of those things, but it was human error myself,
I don't
and
believe it.
I work with some of the best people ever, and we played it off, and none of the
Yeah.
audience would have known.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Nice.
yeah, yeah. There's definitely been a few times, like before I purchased the Play Audio 12, our audio interface just wasn't as reliable, and I've had syncing issues and a lot of lag here and there, and all this kind of different stuff. But again, it's never got to a point where I would call it a catastrophe.
Nice.
Thankfully.
Nice.
So
We
yeah,
we save the catastrophes for other areas of our lives.
exactly.
Um, what would you say to an up and coming artist who might be wanting to start doing some live shows and doesn't have a budget to employ someone like yourself?
Mm.
Um, are there any kind of little overarching kind of tips and tricks that you could tell them?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'd just say like you basically just need to save up to like if you can buy even the basic Ableton, like that's kind of like where your starting point is, and from there you just jump on YouTube, watch a bunch of YouTube documentaries. I mean, it's where I started.
Right.
Um,
And
I mean, I was
searching
lucky.
for what? Building a live show using
Yeah,
Ableton.
different. Like you would say, I would say, you start with like what hardware you have, and
Hmm.
then you'd be surprised at how many people, build a live show using the equipment that you actually have.
Mm.
And then it kind of helps in that regard. Um, and then, from there, it's just start building one, because you don't know what the questions are until you've hit the next roadblock. Um, and for me, that's kind of how it works. Like I was lucky that during my days in my electronic duo Moza, like I got to watch Toby learning how to put our live show together. So I
Mm.
had like a basic understanding of it. But then when it came to um, the first live show I did was actually my wife, Tamika, or her artist name is Zira. And that was like the first time putting together an uh, like a live set for an artist myself completely.
Mm.
And it's just, yeah, like it was just trial and error. And
Mm.
now 3 years on, 4 years on, like I now know how I like to run everything, but it changed over the years a bunch.
Yeah.
And whether that be with new knowledge or new technology or just changing ideas and experimentation, like it, that's it. Like you just have to be good at problem solving. So get good at that. And the only way to do that is
Have
by
problems.
having problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my main
Yeah.
thing. I reckon problem solving is key. Yeah.
Nice. How, if I said to you, tell me about a real pinch yourself moment on stage, what comes to your mind?
Um, Look, honestly, um, I think the last show that I did with Chloe uh, was the final show of the Veronicas tour. We were playing at um, well in Melbourne, um, and it was just just incredible. Like I can't even explain it. I think it's just because like we'd been through so much to get to this point. This tour had been postponed and postponed and postponed. This show in particular was meant to happen literally a year before it actually happened.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know, I was just like on stage with three of my best mates, Chloe singing, Daryl on the drums, Timmy playing guitar and violin, and we were playing one of Chloe's new songs, which is just one of my favorite songs of all time. It's called Soft Rock, and um, a song that I actually got to be involved with in the production of, and yeah, I get kind of emotional thinking about it, but like,
Nice.
it was just such a great moment to be back on stage with my best mates and yeah, sharing that experience together. There's just nothing like it to me. Obviously, I understand that
Mm.
it's not
Mm.
like that for everyone, but um, yeah, to me, that's just the most special thing. On tour, me and my wife, doing the tour management side of things, and then having three of my best mates on stage with me. Doesn't get much
That's
better than that.
that's pretty special.
Yeah.
How does that compare to writing and producing
Um.
with your best mates, for example? Because
Yeah,
obviously, you do a lot of that.
I do. Yeah, I do a lot of the songwriting and production stuff, and I love it a lot. I think if I'm being honest, I love being on stage more. Um.
Interesting.
I certainly don't like being the lead singer or the lead person on stage more. I
Hmm.
much prefer to be. I've done that and it was fun, but I prefer being a part of something than being the focus of something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, in terms of in the studio, like I love the kind of nerdy intricacies of it, and whatnot. I love like when you write a really good song and you have this moment of like, damn, like especially lyrically, I find uh, when myself and some of our artists come up with like just something really good.
Mm.
I've got a song coming out with Samantha Jade, and it's a collaboration between herself and one of my projects called Pastel.
Mm.
Um, and there's this line in the pre-chorus. Um, and it's a song. It's called Love Sick, like love/sick.
Nice.
Um, and it's obviously like it's about like particular toxicity in a relationship, not anything super sinister or anything like that, but just um, learning to let go of something when you need to.
Mm.
And there's this line in the pre-chorus, and it's twist my tongue like it's the knife you pushed into my softer side, and leave me there to fix me again. And
Whoa.
like
That's unreal.
when we came up with that, I was like, far out, dude. It's just really beautiful, and it's those little moments.
Where does a line like that come from?
Um, I think it's I think it's different for everyone, but for me, I think I see the visual of what we're trying to explain.
Okay.
Like for Sammy and I, like we knew what we wanted to say in that pre-chorus. Um, and there are direct ways to say that, and there are ways to imply the emotion that we want to imply.
Yeah.
And for that one, it was about miscommunication. We wanted to bring across that like there's a lack of communication, and uh, and there's also kind of like manipulation in there as well. And so that's why like twist my tongue like it's the knife you pushed into my softer side. It's the idea of, um, I guess, like taking your words that you say and turning them on its head and then using that to kind of like jab back at me because there's a soft spot there
Mm,
within me to extort in a way. It sounds
mm,
kind of sinister, but it's not. Like it's not meant to be like that
mm,
toxic or anything. But um, for us writing that line, I think for me personally, I know I just saw it really visually, um, and it's like just it's this circle where you know what you want to say, and these are the things you want to say within it, and it's about just coming back around and making that full circle. And quite often you don't complete the circle. Most
mm,
of the time you don't complete the circle, but that's just
mm.
one of those moments where the circle completed, and I was just like, I was so proud of that. Yeah, like
That's unreal.
yeah.
How do you silence the inner critic when you're writing?
Um, I wish I had a better answer to this, but I don't know. Maybe it is good. The answer for me is uh persistence and like essentially eventually you understand that it's a numbers game, right? Like you write enough songs and then
Mm,
you understand that it's a numbers game and those numbers will eventually get better. Your
mm,
statistics on crappy song to really good song will get better over time because you will get better. But
mm,
most people and most really successful songwriters, they are probably statistically better than other songwriters,
mm.
but realistically, they just write a lot of songs,
Yeah.
and that's the reality of it. It's obviously easier said than done. You can take every single song that you write to heart, um, but when you learn to put all your heart and your effort into something, but also give yourself the room to understand that everyone writes crappy songs, um,
Nice.
then it's fine. You know?
That's unreal. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but how many songs do you reckon you've written either on your own or with other people? Actually, both. Combine them.
I don't know. I reckon, like, I mean,
Hundreds, right? In your
I
case.
would argue probably somewhere between 1 and 2,000, somewhere around there.
Holy moly.
I
Wow.
reckon. Just because like there are so many like in terms of absolutely completed songs, way less than that. But
Right.
like
Right.
in terms of songs that at least have like a verse, a pre-chorus, and a chorus. Um, yeah, I'd say around about that mark because
That's
there are
crazy.
there are a lot that never see the light of day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's so important for people to hear and to understand, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, that number for a lot of my friends would be way higher because again, like that's not my sole thing that I do. For
Yeah.
a lot of my mates, they are songwriters,
Yeah.
and they would have thousands and thousands of songs that just no one will ever know or hear of again.
Yeah.
um, and that's what it is.
Hmm. That that's a mind-blowing number. I thought you were going to probably say 300 or something.
Nah, nah. All
That's
right, yeah, well more than that, I reckon.
that's unreal. You've
Yeah.
had a bunch of songs that have had streams in the millions. Um, how does it feel when you write a song that kind of resonates with enough people to get millions of streams?
Very interesting question. I think and maybe you'll know that this is what's coming, but I think for a lot of people they won't. I think that there is a big disparity between songs that resonate with people and songs that stream well on Spotify. And for me personally, there is some crossover, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, there are particular songs that have streamed really well that I know has really resonated with people and has led to a bigger fan base for those artists. And like, I've got messages from fans that have said, like, thank you for this song. Like,
Unreal.
it's, it helped me through this really, really dark time, or all these kinds of things. Whereas I think, for instance, there are some of the Moses songs that like streamed really, really well, but I don't
Mm.
think we ever had like Moser fans, you know.
Right.
And I don't know why. I think that they're just like really enjoyable songs. And I think they're well
Mm.
written. I think that they're really well produced.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. There are just particular songs that like uh when I think of something resonating with people, it's like just part of their like DNA now.
Mm.
Like you've left a permanent mark on their
Mm.
life. And they can mark in their life when they heard that song.
Right.
Um, so yeah. Um, though I think those like when like it is really really great when when a song streams well, and obviously for financial and for my own ego and all that kind of stuff, like it's nice.
Mm.
But it is way more rewarding for a song that like really resonates with someone, um even if it doesn't stream well.
Interesting. And the only way you really know that is by them telling you, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like when people feel so strongly that they're going to reach out and tell you about it, and it's not just like oh, I love this song, man, great job. It's like
Mm.
a personal anecdote with it.
Yeah.
That's when it's like it's really special.
It is. It's. I remember thinking, if I can just touch one person with one of my songs, then I will have succeeded. And I remember the first time I had someone send me a message saying, your song got me through a really tough time. And it was an amazing thing.
It's so good, hey.
But then I didn't sit back and go, well, that's it. I've succeeded. I can tick that off because that was my definition of success, was to change one person's life.
Yeah,
And then that happened, and it's like, oh, now I want to do that on a really large scale. There's always wanting, more, and it's not wanting more money, which I think is it's a different kind of desire. This is, the desire that we have as creators to affect people.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and um, I don't think it's a bad thing to keep striving for that thing that because ultimately like it is a selfish thing in a way, like that, like you want to feel that within yourself, but
Mm,
also it's a selfish thing that is doing good for other people too.
that's
So
right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's completely fine to want more of that and to strive for more of that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just about also not letting that that strive for bigger and better to discount what you've already achieved.
That's a very, very good point. Yeah. You
Yeah.
started off, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, largely doing kind of more organic music with more organic sounds. And you have found your way into being, I think, a master of pop music and electronic. And when I say master, don't feel that you need to correct me and go, no, there's people better than me. I think you're fucking unreal. And what was that journey like from guitars, ukuleles, drums, bass, piano
Yeah.
to embracing the wonderful world of pop sounds and electronic sounds?
Yeah. Um, it was really gradual, for sure. Um, and then I think honestly, it was listening to things that were happening within the industry. Um, I think a really big moment for me was Flume's debut album,
Mm,
um, because before then, I mean, I did like a lot of pop music and like electronically influenced pop music, but none of it felt. This sounds so wanky. None of it felt like genuine enough. I don't know. I think there was like this time in like the mid 2000s where and like mid to late 2000s where there was just like everything was a dance pop thing and lots of David Guetta and no disrespect.
mm,
I just don't think that um it just didn't hit me personally. And then
mm,
when it became so popular, um, it actually changed a bit in terms of like a lot of other people who I really loved as songwriters started moving over into that world as well. And
yeah.
that's I think where it changed for me was like when you applied this incredible brain of songwriting the um to pop music, and then not only that, like had to bring the best of both worlds. It's such a challenge to write, like if you can just write like a 5 minute song, like I personally think that Hallelujah is probably the best song ever written.
Mhm.
Um, but like it's like 7 to 9 minutes long depending on the version,
Yeah.
and so like if you're as good as Leonard Cohen and you've got that much time, you're gonna write the best song that's ever written, right? But when you're trying to condense that down into 3 minutes or three and a
Mm,
half minutes, um, it's a real challenge, and I love that challenge. And when you hear people do it really, really well, it's so inspiring. And
mm,
I think that was it for me, was just
mm.
hearing this great pop writing come across into all these different soundscapes and everything. I don't know, it's really inspiring.
Interesting. Interesting.
But yeah, it was very gradual. Like obviously, like even now, like it's really cool hearing some of the sounds of like the late 90s to the early 2000s come back in with a lot more like organic, more so like electric guitar based stuff and whatnot. The piano's never really gone out of
Yeah.
fashion.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, it's really nice to hear them come back around, but then be used in a new context in the more I don't know, I guess in this modern kind of Zoomer focused um, world.
Mm. How do you approach producing a song? Nice,
Um,
easy, simple
yeah,
question with a
simple.
simple
Ah,
answer.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, do you want to just write it down? It'll be quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, it kind of depends. If I'm working on my own song, and I'm obviously writing from scratch, I will probably just like either jump into Splice or try and find a like a new sound or an instrument or something like that that gives me the feeling that I want to go for,
Yeah.
like, and I'll probably have an idea of like, today I'd probably feel like writing an upbeat pop song, or today I feel kind of down, so I'm gonna write like an emotional but still pop song, or like whatever it is. And then
Mm.
so I try and find something that just gives me that feeling. And it might take ages and I might not even find anything. And then I'll
Mm,
just give up on it and go and do something else. But,
mm,
in terms of like the really great songs that I feel like I've written, um, it'll usually be that. It'll be go and
mm,
find a sound that, whether it's a drum loop or just a new um, synth sound that I'll play in or whatever. Um, and then just kind of get myself in that headspace, and then I'll usually write the melodies, see what comes. If I'm writing with an artist, that'll be where like we really collaborate on just singing a bunch of things and just seeing, like, just feeling where, oh, that line actually feels really good, let's stick with that.
mm.
um yeah. And then I would say the lyrics would come after that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd start with like an idea of what wanted to be written on the day in terms of like lyrical content, or sometimes we'll
Hmm.
just see like what comes out of our mouths when we start singing the melodies. Often
Yeah.
the lyrics will kind of fit a particular melody, and then
Yeah.
that will kind of inspire what the song's about. And quite often you'll find that like you end up writing about what you were feeling like writing about anyway, whether you
Yeah.
knew it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's kind of how I'd approach it. Yeah.
Is it kind of, would you say it's all pop that you write now?
It's it's mostly slash pop, you know. It'll be singer-songwriter slash pop, or it'll be
Yeah.
like I don't know, dance slash pop, or whatever it is. Like I think the pop part of it is the intent for it to be something that appeals to maybe not a mass audience, but it's something that appeals to an audience, and it's not just like something for us. It's
Yeah.
something for everyone,
Yeah.
and we're writing it to be catchy,
Yeah.
um, or not even necessarily catchy, but to, I don't know, be something that someone else will enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a absolutely pure, beautiful intention, I think. You're an interesting artist in so many ways, but one of them is that you started off with, your Cam Nacson project, and then you had a band, the Blackbird Collective, for a while, and then Moser, which was the electronic duo with Toby, and then which was your amazing.
Who's
Oh,
that?
am I not allowed to say
No,
that?
you're not allowed to
Oh,
say that
because
one.
you're. I was thinking that because you're anonymous, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you can say pastel and some other
Okay, so
yeah,
look, I'm just going to beat that out, but I'm going to
yeah,
keep the conversation in.
yeah,
There is another project that you are a part of,
yeah.
which of course I wouldn't name because I
Of
know
course
that
not, because you're
you're
not a silly bum.
anonymous.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not a complete moron.
obviously.
Um, but that is another brilliant project. And then you've got Pastel, which is the kind of latest incarnation of Cam.
Yeah.
How do you decide? Oh, okay. Actually, I'm going to create a different artist for this particular song or project.
Um, yeah, I think it's honestly because I also, as a consumer, am aware uh, that it is nice when things are nicely packaged,
Yeah,
and simple to know what to expect. So if I were to release one of my other projects' songs as Cam Nacson, it might just be a bit weird. And also, like, we live in the time of Spotify algorithms. So um, it is it's just, I think, a bit better to have um, a sound for each thing. And because I write a lot of different genres, and I have, ADHD. I feel the need to write different styles of music, different styles of pop, um,
Yeah.
and I love some of the stuff that I write. So when I write something, often these new projects will start with a song that I write, and it'll be something that I actually go like, oh, whoa, okay, I actually really want to put that out, and it doesn't fit
Mm.
this, and it doesn't fit that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it just makes it neater to put it all together. I think that that is valid when you are not like a big household name or something like that. Like none of my
Yeah.
projects are ones where, you'd be like, oh, Cam Nacson. Most people would be like, not really, no.
Yeah.
And
It's not
so
like Taylor Swift just
exactly,
changes direction
exactly.
on an
Taylor Swift
album.
can do whatever she wants. I mean,
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran does whatever he wants, and
Yeah.
like as much as I don't know about that, like hey, it works.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, like that's it. Like I think that because they're not massive projects where people will just accept whatever it is that I put out, I'd just
Yeah.
rather keep it simple.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love that. So you've spent many years accumulating a lot of knowledge, and I would like to mine your brain if that's okay.
please do.
Um, when it comes to releasing stuff,
Hmm.
um, God, where do I start? Okay, so let's assume that you're talking to me, and I'm an artist that has written a song and recorded it, and I would like to get it out to the world. What are the things that I should absolutely unequivocally do? And what are the things that I should absolutely unequivocally not do?
So you've written and produced the songs. The masters are ready to go.
Okay, well, unless you want to start at the songwriting
No,
stage.
no, let's please not. This is already a long question.
That's all right. Well, no,
um,
the question's relatively short. It's just the answer that might be long.
yeah. Yeah. So, uh, look, first and foremost, let's just quickly touch on the songwriting and production stuff.
Yeah.
Write write a few songs, write a bunch of songs, write as many as you can, um, and then get the best produced. Um, and yeah, have options because um, not all of them are as good as you think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and this is just talking from experience, telling
Yeah.
you, go back and listen to my back catalog. Is some of it's pretty bloody crap.
I love
Um,
all your stuff, Cam. You don't
uh,
count.
oh yeah, I do. So yeah, yeah, do that, and then once you've got something you're really happy with, um, you can release. Oh, first, no, yeah, release through a digital aggregator.
Yep.
So
How do
they
you
kind
choose
of
one?
honestly just find which one works best for you. For me personally, I really like DistroKid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you can do splits through their system. So, say for instance, you are giving 3% of your master or 2% of your master to your producer,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
Um, or even for uh, really early starting out artists, you might even be splitting the master 50-50 because you can't afford to pay the producer, right?
So how do you
So
sort out that split?
um, in terms of on a personal level.
Well, no. What, I mean, what advice would you? Someone says, "I don't know how much I'm supposed to give to my
Hmm.
producer. I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to give to the person that I wrote the song with."
Yeah.
For argument's sake.
So yeah. So in terms of the songwriting, it's a different it's a different income stream.
Yeah.
It's composition or publishing, which generally speaking, you just do even splits between everyone, whoever was in the room writing, even splits. It's a completely separate thing from who is the person or the people involved in the released version of the song. If you think of it as the songwriting and uh, publishing side of things is no matter what version gets released of the song, that songwriting doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
That's who wrote the song. So if there's a remix or there's a remake or there's whatever, those people will always be part of that revenue stream. So it's a separate revenue stream. And that's usually done through registering it in Australia through APRA.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the master splits, which is basically that version of the song. So everyone who was involved in that version of the song should either be getting paid or should be getting a split accordingly based on how much, you know, they would usually get paid versus how much you actually paid them.
Yeah.
So if, for instance, again, if you can't afford to pay your producer, maybe they're willing to do a lesser price for you for a higher mastering, as a higher master split.
Split. Yeah.
Standard in terms of if you paid them your full amount is between 1 to 3%, which are called producer points usually.
And
And
that's
then
just for those that don't know, 1 to 3% of what?
of the master splits. And there is
But
a caveat to that.
yeah, sorry.
So that the master splits and the split that you would get from that, or that the producer would get from that, is the artist split. So that is important when you're dealing with labels,
Yeah.
because that's not like, say this is more for producers now, but if you were doing a song on spec, which means you're doing it for splits
Yeah.
with an artist, and say they're going to give you 50% of their artist royalties for
Yeah.
that song, you're getting 50% of what they are making as an artist from that song, which
Yeah.
if they've got a an advance from a label and they have to pay back that advance before they make any money, and then after that they're only getting 20% of the song because they're signed to a major label,
Yeah.
then you're only getting 50% of that 20% after the recoup.
After recoup.
So
Yeah.
always a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with a major label artist, always get paid. Always get paid upfront
Most
as a
people
producer.
won't be dealing with major label artists at this, who, in terms of,
Maybe.
if you're working with major label artists, you probably have a bit of an understanding of how split. Well, okay, maybe not.
I'd say
But what about
you'd have to not have
non-label?
an understanding to do.
What
Anyway,
about just an independent artist who's releasing it themselves through
yeah.
DistroKid?
Sorry, yeah, I go way too deep.
No, no, not at all. This is great.
Uh, yeah. So if you're releasing through DistroKid, what you want to think about is, okay, because I'm starting out a new project, do I foresee this streaming well? If not, then it's totally fine to go down the give your producer more splits and potentially pay them less upfront. Obviously, completely dependent on what the producer is comfortable with, and I really advocate for making sure that you're paying a producer what they feel that they are comfortable with, because you want to have an ongoing relationship with that person, and the
Yeah,
last thing you want to do is make them feel like they've been taken advantage of.
yeah.
So yeah, you could go all the way to a 50-50 split for no upfront money.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, then the great thing about aggregators like DistroKid is that right there within the infrastructure of it all, you can put in that the producer is getting 50% of the splits, so that instead of you getting paid all the money from the aggregator
Yeah.
and then having to split that afterwards and show the producer your gross amount and
Yeah.
then how much you're paying them and blah 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 blah. They just have an account on DistroKid and they just get their money every month and it's all sorted through them.
Beautiful. Can I
So
ask a
that's pretty
question
helpful.
that I don't know the answer to?
Yeah.
So let's say the aggregator has received $1,000 worth of streaming income, and you have a 50% master split with a producer. So you're the
Hmm.
artist. The DistroKid has received $1,000. Does any of that component go to APRA for the songwriters?
Not, no, not to my understanding. Um, it's because that side of the licensing is done separately. There's a separate cost that Spotify pays to APRA on an annual basis,
Gotcha.
based on how much Australian music they're playing and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
I think.
Right. Okay.
I don't know, but
So
it's a
that is
completely separate
purely
thing.
a mechanical royalty.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so therefore,
Anything that comes,
if DistroKid receives $1,000, they take whatever percentage they take. No.
DistroKid is a an annual subscription.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And does that
Um,
increase depending on how many tracks you've released?
Uh, no, it's based on how many artists you distribute through them. So for most people, it will just be the one artist
One. Yeah.
option, which is really cheap. Um,
Yeah.
and then there's different increments. I think there's like a five artist package for like the smaller labels, um, or there's like yeah, proper label packages where you can do unlimited.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've where are we at? Okay. So in terms of you've gone to your aggregator,
Hmm.
you've uploaded your song and your artwork,
Yeah.
and you're waiting on millions of fans. How
Yeah.
how do you facilitate that part of the process?
Yeah, so I guess an important part is so once you've also set your release date for 5 weeks away. Give
Yeah,
yourself 5 weeks between the time you upload to the time that it releases. This
yeah.
gives Spotify and all the other DSPs, which is digital streaming
Providers.
providers, um, digital streaming provider, digital
Sounds good enough.
service provider. I don't know. Who knows? Um,
Yeah.
the internet knows. So yeah, it just gives them time to like actually ingest it and then have an actual listen to it. The next thing is if it's a brand new project, you need to go on to like once DistroKid or whatever it is, whatever service you use. Let's just say from now on, I'm just going to say DistroKid.
Yeah.
It might be another service.
Yeah.
Um, DistroKid will tell you, okay, yep, it's been received by Spotify and all the stores. Then you go onto artist.spotify.com, and this is Spotify for artists.
Hmm.
It's basically an artist portal where you can take ownership of a particular artist profile. It'll
Hmm.
give you a nice little verified tick on
Hmm.
your artist profile on Spotify, and then you will be able to pitch your upcoming song to their playlisters.
Yeah.
This is specifically for their like editorial playlists.
Yeah.
So it's Spotify run playlists. It's not like your independent playlists.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, from there, it's just really important to put together a really succinct pitch to them. You basically go through and you select like what genre is it, what instruments are in there, and give us a quick description of it. Uh, Let them know if there's any kind of advertising spend that you're planning on putting into the song. Um,
Why?
I would I would keep like the I'd have a really brief summary of what the song's about. It's quite often not so much about them like reading your words and connecting with the song. I think that often people will connect with the song if they connect with the song. Like they're going to listen to your song. So
Yeah.
if it's connected with them to the point where they're interested in reading further about it,
Yeah.
then they probably just want to know the numbers and the breakdown of what are you going to be doing to promote this, what's going on with the artist project.
So who's because the most recent stat I think I heard was that I think it was up to 60,000 songs a day or 60,000 tracks a day get uploaded to Spotify. So who the fuck's reading these blurbs that you're talking about?
Uh, some people that are braver than I.
I mean,
Yeah,
surely, just due to the weight of numbers, people aren't listening to everything that goes up.
they aren't. But um, you heard of the Fermi Paradox?
The Fermi Paradox?
Yeah.
Yes, but for some reason I can't think what it is.
Okay. It's
Is that
if
the alien? Isn't
yeah,
that
yeah,
the
it's
alien paradox?
why haven't we found aliens,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So and basically there are big filters, right? And the biggest filter, I reckon, my thing probably there you go. The biggest filter I reckon is that a lot of people won't even know to connect their stuff to Spotify for Artists. They won't know how to pitch it through to Spotify for Artists or anything like that. I reckon you would lose at least 50% just there alone.
Right.
So if you are one of the people that actually do that and put it forward and put in as much effort by going through and making sure that you've got a nice clean looking Spotify profile with custom photos for each one that you've made specifically for the banner and for the profile picture, and you've gone through and done the bio properly, and if you have any upcoming shows, making sure you go into the website that I cannot remember that goes through it, but do some research into that. If you got shows, put them on. If you've got merch, you
Oh, so
can
that's a
put that.
different login.
Yeah, it's through a different website,
Right, okay.
which I don't know why they haven't put it all through the one, but I think it's just logistically it's just easier.
Right.
Yeah, and like putting more photos into there. Basically, if they go into your Spotify profile at the time of receiving your Spotify for Artists pitch for this upcoming single, and they see that you've put the effort in to change all these things and like really customize it so that it looks really nice.
Yeah.
Even a good thing to do is like make a playlist of songs that you really like and that sound similar to this artist project and put it as your artist pick. Um, it's another way of just showing that you are committed to doing this
Can you
through their
just
platform.
can you elaborate on that a bit? So you would create a playlist
Yeah,
and then what?
yeah. Create a playlist of songs that you really like that you think um, other people who would like your music
Yeah.
would like.
Yeah.
Then you can through Spotify for Artists make an artist pick, which is
Okay.
like, hey, it's like a little weekly thing that you can update that's like, hey, check out this song, I really like it, or hey, check
Yeah.
out my latest single I just released, or something
Yeah.
like that. It's like a little thing at the top of your profile um, to
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of get those first comers through the door.
How much of this is, I mean, it's very Spotify centric. How
Hmm.
much of it is a case that you break Spotify and it breaks across everywhere else?
I would say it's mostly the case, and that's not to say that Apple Music or any of the other streaming services aren't important. I mean, I
Mm,
know there was a growing, NFT based um, stuff. That's a whole other,
mm.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
looking a
Anyway,
lot brighter about a month ago, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, oh, the bubble popped.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But it's popped
yeah,
many times before, so who knows?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
So
Who
if
knows?
you, I'd just love to talk numbers for a second. So let's say one of your tracks that has had 1 million streams on Spotify.
Hmm.
What would that look like on Apple Music numbers? Because you can't see Apple Music numbers.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So they do it to protect the fact that
They do it
there's
because they know it'd be a whole order of magnitude less. Like
like 10 times less or what?
easily. I'd
Right.
say I'd say around about 10 times less. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Um
so reasonably if you'd had 1 million streams on Spotify, you'd be looking something like 100,000 on Apple. I mean, do you get those numbers as an artist?
I'd love to tell you that I knew, but they are so irrelevant to me as an artist.
Right.
I haven't like my revenue stream from Spotify compared to Apple Music is like 100 times difference.
Right.
Like
Okay.
there's literally, I reckon, in a month, if as an example, if I were to make $200 from Spotify for a particular song in a month,
Yeah.
I would probably make $5 to $10 from Apple Music.
Okay.
And that's even with Apple Music paying more than Spotify does.
Mm.
The fact of the matter is that more people listen through Spotify.
Mm.
And so if Apple Music was like this new thing, like maybe I'd be like, oh, it's important to like do it and see because as we've learnt with even from back in the day, YouTube through to iTunes through to now TikTok, right? It's important to jump on these new things just in case one of them happens. And for every TikTok, there's 100 ones that didn't
Yeah.
work out.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that unless Apple Music do something like extraordinary, it's kind of going to fall into yeah. It'll stick around because it's Apple and
Yeah.
like
They're not going
they've got
anywhere
plenty of
anytime
other
soon.
things going for them.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's that relevant.
It's probably a loss leader for them,
Probably, yeah,
like so many things are.
yeah,
So then you've done all that, and you then have to deal with the whole shit fight of social media
yeah,
and the terror that goes along with. And I'm going to say this is pretty much universal, and I'm sure there are a bunch of people that could prove me wrong, but I think most people struggle with I don't want to bombard my audience with too much content. I don't want to piss them off. But at the same time, I don't want to, I want to maximize my chances for this music working. And then you put up a photo of you and your friends in the pub or whatever, and it gets engagement. And then you can release a song and get very little engagement, and that's been your last 6 months' work. Not to
yeah,
mention your entire heart and soul and the tears that you've cried and all that stuff. And it really is. I mean, it's terrifying in so
yeah.
many ways. How do you deal with all that?
Emotionally, you just have
Yeah.
to learn again that uh, your self worth is not based on any of these things. Like
Nice.
it, and it's way easier said than done. Way easier said than done. Even I, like, despite the fact that like I don't really put all of my everything into any basket.
Mm.
When one of them doesn't go that well, it still affects me, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But you get up and you move on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think I think in terms of the strategy, not that I'll go that into it because I'm not very good at it. Um, I think it's easy to dismiss stuff like TikTok and whatnot, and I, I really truly believe that the crossover between even online platforms like TikTok over to even Spotify, there's barely any crossover.
Mm.
Like someone that gets millions of hits on TikTok does
Yeah.
not necessarily get those like massive
Yeah.
streams unless they are doing something really, really well to combine all of it and convert those people into followers and fans,
Mm.
because realistically mostly, well, sorry, to convert them into fans, because mostly they're just followers and people who like you for your content.
Yeah.
But that's not to be discounted. Like I think that a great thing to look at with in terms of like TikTok content is that like it doesn't have to be so music centric, like it can be you finding smart ways of incorporating your music into trends that are already happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can you give an
gonna
example?
um I mean there honestly I can't think of one off the top of my head because again I'm not on TikTok very much. Like I'll jump on there every now and then and do some things, but like I like I'm old, McGlynn. I'm.
Oh,
uh,
jeez. The last TikTok I did was about 18 months ago, and
yeah,
it actually got quite a bit of engagement relative to the rest of my shit.
yeah, that's
And
great.
basically, I just said, look, I'm old, like compared to most of you guys. I'm 50, um, but I'm producing music for a living, and I get to make music that I love and work with people that I love. And I just want to say, keep on going, because if you think you're too old and you're on TikTok, chances are you're not, And
Yeah, love
and
that.
people kind of really seem to resonate with that message in their dozens. And that was the last kind of thing I did on TikTok. But I thought, well, fuck it. I'm
That's
old. I may as well,
but that's a
own
great
it.
example though. Like it's like it's so off the cuff and it's honest as
Mm,
well. Like
mm,
I think that uh Zoomers have like this incredible nose for BS, and even when something isn't necessarily true, like there's plenty of people posting stuff that like, oh, today I wrote this song about this thing
yeah, yeah,
because my blah blah blah, and it was so off the cuff or whatever, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
obviously wasn't, and they
I
wrote the song
know.
like 2 years ago. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's about having that off the cuff feeling and genuine feeling, like because those things are what you felt at the time of writing that song, right? So bring that back around and
Mm,
and find things that people are going to genuinely um I guess in like feel, and
mm.
and it doesn't have to be overproduced, although now it seems like it's like more effort to make it look low effort. um
Yeah, yeah,
which is the bane of
exactly.
my
Well,
existence and exactly why I can't do it.
yeah.
And
Well, the musical equivalent of that is, people spent decades trying to get rid of vinyl crackle and tape hiss and
yeah,
now, I mean, I bought a plugin that I love, which is called DAW Cassette, and it's a
yeah,
cassette emulator,
yeah,
and
Just to make it
you've
sound
got
crappier.
just to make it even crappier. And of course, you and I know that it makes it sound amazing when the context is right.
Yeah,
But it's just, we've spent so long trying to get rid of this shit, and now we're paying big bucks to get those imperfections back, which
yeah.
is, I think, quite beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, and I like the intention behind it. And and I don't really like the idea of bashing on TikTok or any of that kind of stuff because I think there's some really genuinely great things about the platform and all of that. But again, I would take those ideas into your strategy as a whole. Like,
Yeah.
I think gone are the days of like full on music videos. Um, like, unless you have like this brilliant concept that's like
Talk to
really
me.
unique,
Yeah.
um,
Talk to
like,
me about that statement. So you reckon actually investing money in making a cracking music video just for the
waste of
sake of
money.
having a cracking music video is
Complete,
money
a complete
poorly
waste of
spent?
money. Yeah,
Okay.
complete waste of money. If you can do it yourself and make it look a certain level of thing, like tonight, I'm shooting a music video with myself and Samantha Jade, and like it's gonna be pretty cool. But that's just because like um I'm doing it, like everything that you will see in the end product will be done by Sammy or I. Like
Yeah.
that's how it is. Um, so yeah, don't go and spend the money.
So it's not a waste of time making music videos.
It's not a waste of time making cool content.
Gotcha. Nice.
Um, yeah, and I think that it depends on your audience. Like I think that there's some validity to it now doing it because Samantha has a particular kind of audience
Yeah.
that still would like that and still kind of expect some level of like polish to her and her project.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do not think that applies to many people these days.
Yeah.
Um, so, I would say that if you had a budget of $2,000 to spend on something, um, it shouldn't be a music video. It should be
Right.
advertising the little content snippets you've come up with.
As in
Do that
paid
instead.
paid
Yeah,
Facebook and
paid.
Instagram ads?
Yeah, paid Instagram, Facebook, TikTok ads, any of those kinds of things. Like
Right.
push them there, and see if you get better response because like you can go and spend 10,000 like honestly like
Mm,
a bunch of people I know have spent tens of thousands of dollars on recent music videos and they
mm,
get like 5,000 streams on YouTube,
mm,
you know.
mm.
And then you go and cut up a behind the scenes video of it and do a TikTok of like how we made this music video and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, like
Yeah.
and that'll get millions. So
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that that's a better way to spend your money.
What what about a publicist? When was the last time you knew of an independent artist who engaged a publicist and had any kind of success from it?
What's the date now?
The 27th of July.
Yeah, so about never ago. Um,
Well played, sir. Yeah.
nah, look, honestly, I think that publicists are really great when they have a product that is already working.
Yeah.
Um, I don't
Gotcha.
know that no one's going to care enough about your project to come up with something that you haven't already come up with.
Hmm.
So you just have to be the driving force of your own project first
Yeah.
and foremost, and then if other people jump on it and add to that, that's really good. But I just think you need to do all proof of concepts yourself first.
I love that. That's a great answer. So, what about the people that are teetering on the edge of giving up because it's all so fucking hard, right? And you and I both know what that feeling is like. there's an artist that you and I both know very well, and I produced an EP of hers last year, and she wanted to remain anonymous because she had given up doing music because the industry just and the mechanics of trying to get this shit happening was just too much, and she lived a very simple life on a farm, and eventually the music took hold again, and
Yeah.
we got chatting, and we did a 5-track EP. She has no interest at all in doing any promotion or anything like that, but the music itself had to come out because it's important. So is there a way and this is purely a semantic question, but is there a way that you can kind of be a music creator or a content creator or an artistic person and just ignore all that shit? And if there is a way that you do that, what's it going to look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, the, being an artist part of it, um, I don't think is entirely necessary if you're okay with a particular level of success.
Mm.
Um, and I would say that I'm kind of doing that. Like, I'm not really interested nor concentrating on my artist projects. Sorry,
All good.
they are things that happen
Mm-hmm.
uh, when I feel inspired to do them, and all that. So, what I think that looks like is honestly, like, I would really recommend if you are feeling that way, trying to learn as much of it as you can. Like, obviously, negating as many of the costs um, is the best thing that you can do because obviously that means, like, I don't know. I guess it depends for people as well. Like, if you have another job that you're working and you want to put some of that money into your music, then great, that's
Mm.
awesome. I'm not in that position,
Mm.
but I think it's exactly what she's doing. Like,
Mm.
just do it, release it, and if you make a bit of money off Spotify, great. If you don't, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, it's doing its purpose. If the purpose is to
To
get the music
exist.
out there and just to get it out of you, then
Yeah.
just do it. Like,
Yeah.
it does not matter. Um, yeah,
Have
I
Have
think
you
there's
ever
something really
quit?
beautiful about it. Hey?
I agree. I think there's something
Yeah.
really beautiful about it. Have you ever gone, that's it, I'm out? Or because I know that you've
Mm,
probably got close, because most of us have gotten close-ish at some point. Have you
yeah.
ever gone, fuck this?
No, but I've definitely got close. No, it's never been a thought. Um,
Good.
for some reason. um, I don't know. I think just the tenacity is too too there. I don't know. I don't know why it is, but I think maybe again that's why I do these restructures is because
Mm,
instead of saying I'm going to quit, I say I'm going to do this a bit differently,
yeah.
um,
Beautiful.
and adapt it. And whether that's, like, I mean, back in the day, obviously we were working on the Black Leg Collective stuff, and there came a point where we were just like, it's not working.
Yeah.
And so
Probably
we
your
moved on to
producer.
other things. Yeah, I was probably the producer. Um, yeah, so I think it's those things. Is like allowing yourself to restructure and rethink what your goals are. I think
Mm,
is what keeps people from actually just completely quitting
yeah,
as a
yeah.
whole. Yeah.
So, having said that, if you
Mm,
go back to uh, 9-year-old Cam,
yeah.
and then 18-year-old Cam, and then 23-year-old Cam, do you are you in love with it as much as ever?
Yeah, more so, I reckon.
That's unreal to hear. What are you doing with your
Sorry,
phone?
I had to plug my phone in. It was about to die.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Oh, and now the
um,
problem is it's plugged in at the bottom, so
yeah,
you can't
exactly.
sit it up nicely.
hmm yeah, I reckon. I mean, it's hard to tell whether I like the music more or I just like my life more. But
Yeah,
probably they are one and the same. So,
yeah,
as I
yeah,
said before,
yeah,
um, yeah, I think I've learnt to adapt it around me a bit more, so it fits in with the things that I really, really want to do. And again, I'm not afraid of changing that when I need to.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
I mean, I think back to the guy who was, um, you know, always such an incredibly talented singer songwriter, and then you went and toured America with Ron Pope,
mm,
and I just, I'm just thinking what that guy's thought about what his trajectory would be.
yeah,
Because probably touring with Ron Pope, you're traveling across the States with one of your heroes. It
yeah.
must have been a very, very exciting time, that.
Oh, it definitely was, and that sparked a passion in me that has never left. Like
Unreal.
that's exactly why I say like I live for like the shows and the touring and whatnot because man, that experience like changed my life and regardless of whether as an artist I went down the path of what I thought I would do,
Mm.
um, I I'm happier with where I've ended up. You know, I think than the idea of what I had in my head of what I wanted to do. I'm
Yeah.
definitely happier than I would have been had I gone down that path.
And that's beautiful considering the turmoil of the last couple of years.
Mm.
I feel like I see a far more content person sitting in front of me, well, across the screen, than 3 or 4 years ago. And, Tamika's obviously, the love of a, a beautiful partner is probably a very great thing to make your life kind of feel better.
Definitely a good part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great to hear you talking so positively about everything.
Well, I think maybe I mean seemingly again like you seem pretty similar,
Yeah.
and I think these times for not only people in the industry, but for a lot of people has made us all really assess our lives
Mm,
and cut out the BS that we just thought we had to do
mm,
um, to get by. And
mm,
for me and for Tamika and for yourself, like we've looked at it and gone like, what's actually like making us happy and what what are the goals and why? Um,
mm.
and for you moving out of Sydney, like I can tell it's made a massively positive impact on your life.
Yeah.
Um, and understanding like I guess understanding from an outsider's perspective, it seems like you have um, understood that having a studio in Sydney is not what made you great at what you do, right? I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, I don't think that I ever thought people only like me because I've got a cool studio.
No,
But,
no,
but,
that's not what I
but,
meant.
but having the studio definitely took me from being a little bit of a freelance producer who worked at a million other studios, like when we first met, working
Yeah,
at 301. Um, and once I had my own space, I felt more legit, and people could then come to me and have a space. And now I don't have that to offer again, but I feel like I've got enough runs on the board now that people will come to me regardless of whether I've got a space or not.
which is pretty bloody cool.
Yeah, it is. And it's a pretty beautiful space up here. And you guys have to come up and visit. I know we've said
Very,
that.
very, very keen to do so. Love it up there.
My dude, thank you so much for the chat. I have learnt stuff, and
Good.
I'm sure people who are watching. I've got it. I keep on making the same stupid joke, and you know that's what I'm like. I'm
Yeah,
like flog a fucking dead horse of a joke.
yeah.
But I keep on saying, well, and I hope that the 19 people that listen to this podcast get something out of it too. I'm going to stop making that joke.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to
Also,
say,
McGlynn would like to make you all aware that based on the analytics, only 40% of you are subscribed to the channel. So
that's
please,
right.
right now, Gregory, please go and subscribe.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Cam, I always love chatting with you, and I'm sure everyone else now loves you as much as I do. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, my dude.
Absolutely. Love you very much.
See you, my friend. Just like normal phone conversations, I've just got to take a piss.
Yeah. Fuck, I hate McGlynn. Worst guy ever. I don't even know why I accepted this interview. I got so many better things to do with my time. Does he not realize that I own a company now? I have so much to do. Oh my god. Anyway, gotta remember where you came from. Just because the guy gave me my, start in music. Basically inspired me to do what I did. Whatever. Hopefully we oversee.